Welcome. My name is George Pearson and I run the How To Gurus channel here on YouTube. Most of the videos in my channel are short demonstrations of the different tools and techniques you'll find in various software programs. Right now I have several hundred of these quick videos available on YouTube. This video though is different. This is part of a new series of longer demonstrations that I'm doing to show you how to complete complex projects from start to finish using a variety of techniques and tools. All of the images I use in these projects are in the public domain, and I've included a link to the pictures in the video description in case you want to work along using the same images. Okay, let's move on to the project. In this special Photoshop text project, we'll take a look at how you can put text inside of a shape. On this first image here, I have text inside of a shape that's over here on the left-hand side of this image. And then we have a different way of doing this, kind of another use of this, and that's putting text inside of an actual image like this. It's still actually just text inside of a shape, but it's a special use. If I hide that picture, you can see there's the text inside of the shape, and I'm simply blending in the picture inside of that text. So let's see how this is done. It's pretty straightforward, nothing really dramatic about this. We'll start off here with this file. We'll start with the background. Now I have a picture. I found this is just the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., kind of a close-up shot of the Lincoln Memorial. And to do this, we need to create a shape over here. So I'll take our Path tool. Let's just go over here and use the Pen tool. And up at the top, we're making a shape instead of making a path. So let's make a shape. And I'll just start over here somewhere and begin clicking in here. And this will then create a shape for us. The shape doesn't need to be perfect. I have a fill of black and a stroke of white so you can see what I'm doing here. Since the text's not going to be getting right up against Lincoln's face or body anyway, we can be a little bit loose. So you can just be relatively free about this and come out a little ways here so you have a little bit of a border around that. And go back to the beginning to finish that off. So there's our basic shape. Back to our shape or direct selection tool here. We don't really need to have a stroke showing on that one, so I'll put in no stroke. There we go. We don't even need to actually have a fill showing. As long as it's still a shape. You see it says shape right there, so it's still a shape, it's just an invisible shape. If I click off, it kind of goes away. Click back on it again, there is that shape. Now I need to have some text to put into this shape, and let me just pop this up here. Here we go. I have the Gettysburg Address, and it's inside with our materials. That's Gettysburg Address.text, and we're using just the first sentence from that. So I'll select that, right-click, copy. And then we'll be placing our text inside of the shape. Now notice as I take my type tool and I move it around, if it's out here it looks like a regular type tool. If it's against the edge, it changes to this kind of an odd shape tool. You can see right there. That is putting text on a path. If I'm inside of the shape, it changes to a circle around it. This is text inside of a shape. Click on that. There's my insertion point right there. It's a little high because of course that the shape kind of leans up there. We can adjust that if we need to. And I'm just going to then paste that text in, edit, paste, and it pastes the text in as you can see. Now I had that little problem right there, so I'm going to go back here to our direct selection tool, click on that, and I'll move one of these points, just modify the shape a little bit. There it is. So that's now horizontal across the top. Next thing we want to do is we want to come in and make our text larger. So let's select the text, and right now it's 14 point. I'm just going to come right over where the type icon is here, and you can just click on that and then roll back and forth and adjust the size of that text. Now notice we have a break in here. That's because I had this text in a text file. So I'll back up on that a little bit. And I think we can go just a little bit larger, maybe one more point here. Let's see, actually 18, 17 fits pretty good. There we are. We have our text follows the shape, as you can see over there. Notice that we no longer see the shape that we put this into, but it's still following that shape. Now let's convert this type over into white lettering. So we'll select like that, and then right here click on that little icon there for our color. Drag up upper left hand corner. That will make that white. So there's our white text. The last thing I want to put on this is a drop shadow. So we'll come over here. I'm also going to move this a little bit. Let's just grab this and pull this down just a little high on the top up there. So pull it down just a little bit. That's better. A little more space across the top. So we'll do this with a layer style, and that's layer and layer style. Drop shadow right there. Of course, you could have just clicked on the layer style button right here, but I'm showing everything in the menu so it's easier to follow along what it is that I'm doing. There's our drop shadow. There's the angle. I'll uncheck use global light. Puts the angle this way. And then it's just a matter of deciding where you want to have your drop shadow happening. Bring it out a little bit, bring the size in a little bit, makes it a little bit harder. And then find a spot that you feel is attractive for your particular image. I'll put it right about there. Choose OK, and there we go. We have text that's following a shape here because we actually made the shape on the left-hand side and then filled that left-hand side text, filled that shape rather with that text on the left-hand side. So it's not really following the shape here, so that was the shape of the right-hand side of that text shape. If I go back to the move tools over here, to the select tools, rather the direct selection tool or the path selection tool, notice that we can still see our path right there. You can click on that path and you can still modify that path. I can still come in here and make some adjustments on this. Pull that up a little bit, for instance, and change the position of that path, and that's going to then change the way that the path follows that shape. So you have some ability in here to modify the shape after you have placed it in. You're not locked out of that for good. You can come back and modify that down the road as well. Okay, there we go. That's the first one, and that's also a nice demonstration of how we put text inside of a shape. Let's now take this basic concept and go a little bit further with this, and that's over here. On this one, we'll be doing a few steps. You can see over here on the right-hand side. I'll talk you through this. Then we'll go ahead and recreate this. First off, we have our picture down here, and I've recreated the picture up here, and you can see if we hide all of this stuff, there we go, and if I hide the background, that what I did was take the original image back there. There it is. There's our original image, and I made a very careful path around the edge of this, and then gave it, made a real nice careful path clear around the head all the way around the backside. It's not as important back here, actually. The important part in this case is the front side, because we're going to be cutting that out so we can then put a black shape in behind. On the right side, all it really needs to be is just kind of generally in that position. It's not that critical because you can't tell from the end of the text exactly where that text is falling. It's not going to be a perfect follow along on this because, of course, the words end at their own kind of position. So this can be fairly rough on the right-hand side, just like we did on the previous text. So this shape here that we're making, this is the shape that we'll be filling with text. So we clean that up, make our selection, remove the background, so we have that nice clean background like that. On the right side, we'll have a shape left when we're through. We can then fill that shape with our text. Right here, you can see how the text is following along the edge of that shape. There we go. And then finally, we take our image again up here. You can see here's our image. And we blend the image by using a clipping mask and place that into the text. So the image now goes inside of the text, and then finally we'll use some dodge and burn tools over here to accentuate the shadows and highlights on this image so that we get a real nice amount of contour showing in there. So that's the basic idea. It's fairly straightforward, as you can see, and we're going to now recreate that. And I'll start by making a new set up here, new group, and I'm just going to take these and move these into the group, and then we'll close the group and get this stuff out of our way. There we go. Close that group down. So now back to just the background, and the first thing we want to do again is to come in and create our path. Again, very careful on the left hand side. It can be a little sloppy on the right hand side. That's not as important over there. So we'll use the pen tool again, and I'm going to zoom in a bit for this. There we are, and I'll just begin to make a very careful path. Actually, I'm on the wrong tool here. Let me just undo a couple of steps there. Step backwards. Make sure we're on the path tool. There we go. That's the important part. Okay, we're on the path. That's fine. And we now can come in and begin to click in and create our careful path. Now, because I'm using the pen tool, I can click in here and actually give a little pull right there and create a curve instead of a straight line. That gives us a little more control for us. We'll come back and we'll adjust this afterwards, and then we can even add in more points and take out points, things like that. Making your path with the pen tool gives you a lot of control for modifying that path after the fact. What you actually can do here is just come around, and I'll show you how to do this. I'm just going to click on the important positions here, and I'll come back and add in points and take points out and convert points into curves as needed in the modify portion of making this particular path. So it can be done fairly quickly. I'm going a little faster than I would normally do for a finished piece in here. I take my time and actually do a real nice, perfect path on this, but for this demonstration, you get the idea. Just scroll over here. Now once we get past the halfway point here, kind of the point out where his nose is, which is right about here, just about at the 145 or so. Once I'm past that point, that's the midpoint of our image. It's not as critical on the back side, so I'm not going to be as concerned in here. I'm just going to make some quick points, and I won't bother on this side to come back and adjust these points to make them exact. This will be plenty close enough to fill with the text. Okay, just about done. Right down towards the bottom down here. And each time I click on this, it puts in one of those insertion points. So at the bottom, I'm just going to click outside, and then I can put one just outside down there. Over here, and come right back to the beginning. Click on that. That thing gives me that finished path. A little hard to see in here, so let's go to our Direct Select tool. Click on the path, and I can now see all of my actual points. And at this point, I can then grab the points and actually reposition each one of these points and take my control handles and adjust the curves in here. And here's where I can come in and make this fit exactly by doing these little fine-tuning adjustments. This is all looking pretty good. If we have a spot where I haven't put in control handles, I kind of drop doing that up here just a little bit. When we're at that point, we can convert these points to curves or convert the curves into straights if we need to. For instance, this is a straight right there. Let's go over to our pen tool and convert. I'll click on that point and pull, and that pulls out those control handles, and that converts it over into a curve. So click and drag, it becomes a curve. You can see it right there. Just clicking on it converts that back into a point, with corners, straight lines. So I can now grab this with the direct move tool and get that curve exactly where I want it. So you can be very, very detailed, very, very specific about this. Looks like we're pretty good here. That should be a curve. So I'll drag that out. Notice sometimes I'm kind of spinning it around. Sometimes when you do this, you get a little loop on that. And if you have that, you'll just need to spin that around to get the curve straightened out. Okay, a real long section in here. So I'll put a curve right there. And pull that out. There we go. Okay, nice curve on that one. Same thing right here, I need a little curve in here, so let's convert that to curve. Just pull it out, just a little twist there. Nice curve on that one, and I want a curve right here. A little hard to see those lines against this background, unfortunately. But you can see it's making a nice curve right there. So again, just take the time to go ahead and make this side as nice as you can. Now I'm going to pause the video at this point, and I'll finish up tuning up this path with the video turned off, so you don't have to spin here and watch me spend all that time to do that. So I'm going to pause the video for a moment. I'll finish cleaning the path up and then bring the video right back up again. Okay, I finished with the path now, and it's about where I want it. And we now can take the pen tool, click on that. The path is still selected, as you can see. And up here, let's make this a shape. There we go. So there's our shape. Now on the shape, it can change over here to our regular tools. I don't need to have the stroke, so I'll make that stroke invisible. And there we go. There's the basic shape, as you can see. So we have a shape, and let's make a new layer here. Actually, there's the shape. It was hiding inside. Knew it was there someplace. Let me drag that down. There we go. There's that shape. Hide that group. Okay, now that we have our shape on a layer, I'm going to zoom back out again. Let's just fit on screen. So the next thing we want to do is we want to find our midpoint in here. So let's hide our shape. We have that ready to go. Down to our back point, grab a line. I want to find a point right about midpoint on the front of his nose. That's where we're going to be doing our separation. You can come a little bit to the side if you want to. It's up to you where you want to have that, but somewhere around in there to give the right effect. The left side we're going to be showing, and the right side we're going to be filling with our text. Now, we need to have a couple of pieces in here. I need to have half of Lincoln's face as a piece on its own layer, and then the back half of this shape. So we need to cut the shape in half and cut his face in half, and then use the shape to match the face. Let's see how we can do that. I'll grab the background, make a new copy. Let's hide the original. There we are. So there's that background. At this point, there are two things that we want to do here. We want to protect our shape because we'll be using this half of the shape to fill that shape with our text. We need to have a shape here. We also want to cut this in half and then use this over here to delete the background for our face image. So a couple things I want to do. So I'm going to make a copy of this. I'll just drag this down to our new layer. There we go. And that gives me a copy. So I can hide the back one. This I'll leave as a shape. On this one, let's right click and rasterize that layer. So I have one shape and one rasterized layer. On this rasterized layer, I'm going to get rid of this right half. So let's grab our rectangular marquee tool, and I'll just come up here to the top right corner someplace, pull that down and over until I hit that guideline. Then I'll just hit the delete key and delete that. We can then deselect. So I now have a shape in here, or a transparency with a black shape, which is just the left-hand side. So I'm going to grab the magic wand tool and select the transparency, just like that. So it's everything selected except for that black area. I can now come down to our background copy here, hit the delete key, and it deletes everything except for the left side of the face. And we can see that. Let's just deselect and show our left side of the face. There's the left side of the face. So that is taken care of. At this point, we can come in and put in our black background if we want to, so we can kind of get an idea of how well our edge worked. So I'll make a new layer. I'll come to the background, put a new layer above the background. Let's fill that with black, just a solid layer. There we go. That's the background. There's the left side of our Lincoln's face. So that half is now done. We're now down to this point. We have our shape. We have our front taken care of. We no longer need that shape, but I'll just leave it in here. So we have two uses now for this shape, two things we need to do. The first one is we need to use this to cut the background out of the Lincoln area here and just leave just the whole head. And we'll use that a little later on towards the end of this whole process. And I can do that right now, and that can then just have that as a saved piece, or we can do it later. The second thing we need to do with this is we need to cut the left side off of this shape, leaving the shape on the right hand side, this part of it in here. And that shape is what we're going to be using to paste the text into. So I'm going to just copy this just so for visibility's sake. Normally I would just do one step and then cut it off and do the second step. I'm going to leave this one as its own shape. Let's go ahead and copy that. There we go. And I'll hide that shape. We'll use this copy to clean the background out of our image and give us a new clean Lincoln head without the background. On this one, let's use this layer to give us the right hand shape, which we'll be pasting our text into. So we need to go over here and grab our direct selection tool, and you can see here's our shape. We have a couple of points. Make sure you have a point right at the bottom and a point right at the top of your line. That's very important. Make sure you have those 2 points in there. You'll need those. We're now going to just delete the points on the left hand side, leaving us with a vertical line right here and a shape on the right. So let's go up here, choose the convert, actually not that one, there it is, the delete anchor point tool. That's the one I wanted. Roll over one of your anchor points. You see the cursor changes there. You can see it right there. Cursor changes to a pen tool with a minus. At that point, you can just click on that point and it is deleted. So it's simply a matter now of going through, finding these points and deleting the points that we don't want, which is everything on the left hand side here, until the image collapses down to the right side. Obviously, the more points you have, the longer this will take. The fewer points, the quicker this will go. But it's not a long process no matter what. Don't worry about strange shapes in here. Those will all go away as we remove these points and kind of clean things up. Okay, that's down to the bottom one. And a couple up here at the top. Just about like that. One more there. There we go. One at the top, one at the bottom. Now, at this point, these are both curves, as you can see here. So, let's go to our Convert Point tool, click on the bottom one, Click on the top, make sure those are converted into corners as opposed to curves. And we now have a shape for the right side of our face. And that's that one. That's what we'll be pasting our text into. So that's ready to go. We now need to have some text to paste in here. And we'll put that on a new text line. So I'll go back and bring up our text. There we go. I'm going to grab a bit more of the text this time. We'll see how far it goes. Right click, copy. Grab our type tool. Type is set for white. That's fine. Again, notice as I roll over this, if it's out here, it's a regular text tool. If it's on the line, it's a put the text on the line tool, or on the path tool. If it's inside, it's a fill with the text inside. So I'll click in here. And then edit, paste, and we paste the text in. Let's now adjust our text. 4 clicks and bring the text size down, a little too small there. I'll just grab all of that. Let's make that all the same size. I'll make everything 12. Maybe a bit smaller. Let's make it all 9. It'll take a little bit of adjustment here to get everything fitting in properly. It looks pretty good. Back out of some of these breaks. Those breaks, of course, are because it's coming from a text file which doesn't have any line breaks built in. I'm going to back that one up as well. I don't know if I have anything down below here or not. Yes, we do. Okay. 4 clicks, change that over to 9 points. And we're getting there. Back up a little bit here with the cursor key. Okay, we have text now that fits our whole shape on the right hand side. So far, so good. The last thing we need to do at this point is to fill this text with an image and then adjust or modify that image. We actually can hide that shape if you want to. We're no longer using the shape. I can bring the black back up again in the background. There we go. Looking pretty good. We now can use this again. Here's our black shape. Let me just hide that black background again. Make another copy of the background. There's our copy. I'm going to pull this to the top since I need to have this above the text layer. Let's do the same steps that we did on this upper section up here again. So I'm going to leave this one in the files if you want to play around with this. I'll pull this down, copy that, and hide that. So that one is the shape, and this is going to be just a selection. So I'm going to right click on this, rasterize that layer. There we go. This is now rasterized. You can see the little icon in the corner down there. That is our shape. This has no icons. This is just a rasterized layer. So now I can use this with the magic wand. Click in the transparent area. That gives me a selection of that transparent area. And come back down here. There we go. Let's make that visible. Hit the delete key. And that deletes out that background. So what we now have is just Lincoln without any background. And let's deselect that. So that's pretty good. We now want to take this and put Lincoln into our text. So I take this and put Lincoln into the text. And that's done with a clipping mask. So go up here to Layer, Create Clipping Mask, and it drops it into that text. So whatever is down below in the text, it just drops that into the text. We can still work with our text at this point. It looks like I still can come in here and actually modify or edit that text if we want to. And you may want to make a little adjustment. I'm looking at it right now. I think it's not quite where I want it. So I'm going to back up just a couple of steps here. And let's take a look at that. As soon as I had that head on there, I realized that my text is a little too widely spaced. I want to change the spacing. So I'll click on that 4 times. Let's bring up the character panel. Here we go. And here's our spacing. Let me just bring the spacing in. That's too tight. It's a little better. You know, having it tighter in here gives you a little better view of this whole thing. 7 is too tight, maybe 7.5. I think that's pretty good. You know, it's more solid, and having it more solid will make it more visible on the side of the face. Down here we need to change this type size, of course, and we're working with 9. There we go. And I'll back up and back that in. That looks pretty good. Okay, it's a lot tighter now, so we just brought our line spacing down so it's more solid text, and that will give us a better rendition of the face. Okay, so back to our face again. Same thing. We'll take the face, layer, create clipping mask. There it is. Looks much better now. Notice as I brought the line spacing down, we can now see more of that face in here. So there is the basic look. The last thing we want to do is want to accentuate the shadow parts of this image. And you can do that by using the dodge and burn tools. Dodge will lighten things up and burn will darken things down. So I'll do the burn tool, and I'm just going to come over the shadow areas and make the shadow areas darker like that, just by using the burn tool to burn in that shape a little bit. We can make the light areas brighter by going with the dodge tool and lighten up some of those light areas. And with a little back and forth, we can accentuate the quality in here of that three-dimensionality. But there you go. Let's just hide that guideline, and there it is. A few steps to get to this point, but nothing difficult, as you can see. And what we end up with is the left side, nice face, right side, made out of text. In this case, we actually took text from one of his speeches, the most famous, of course, Gettysburg Address. And there it is. It's all, though, based, as you saw here, really on the basic principle of taking text and putting text inside of a shape. Just like we had over here, text inside of a shape. We just did a few more things, make it look a little more interesting, but it's still the same basic idea. Okay, there you go. That is how to take text and put it inside of a shape. All right, I have just a couple of comments on this technique, a couple little clarifications on this. As you saw here, I left quite a few of these additional shapes as we were working because I wanted to keep things clear during the demonstration. For instance, I kept this one shape, and I'll leave it in the file. I made two copies of this shape in here. I could have done, cut this part out first, then cut that shape in half and cut the other part out. So by doing a little different arrangement of my sequence, I could have used less layers to build this. Again, the reason why I did it this way is I wanted you to really see exactly what I was doing step by step in a logical progression. But you can do it with a few less actual steps if you rearrange, change the order a little bit. Grab the head first. So take your basic shape, grab the whole head first, make a copy of the head, cut off the right hand side, and then that will leave you with your left hand side. And if you copy that first, you would have one copy like that, and then one copy just left hand side. It would save you a couple of steps that way. Not a big deal. Again, I'm going to leave all this stuff in here. Normally I would just get rid of this extra baggage. Now, after you have this made with the image inside of your text, if you want to see what the text looks like, it's easy to do. Just go up here and delete the opacity of your clipping mask image. That will then allow the text to show through. So go up here to opacity. I'll just slide this over to the left-hand side, and notice how that hides this image, and you can then see the text real clean. I could then work on my text, make adjustments to the text, and so forth. And then when that's all done, I can go back and bring the clipping mask back in again by bringing the opacity back up. So you can use that to work back and forth easily on this technique. Another The thing to think about here is for this really to work out well, this side of the face works best if you have a side of the face that has sharp contrasts in it. If you notice over here on our image, it's real dark shadows and some real high, bright highlights in there. I accentuated those, but still I worked on the shadow side of the face. I could have put the text on the left-hand side and left the right-hand side as the image, but the left-hand side has less texture to it. There's less shadowing on this side. And because we're breaking it up with that text, the shadowing makes it easier to see the shape in there. So you want to put your text on the side of the face that has the shadows in it. That will give you the most contrast in here and the most three-dimensional look when you're finished. Okay, just a few thoughts there on how you can work with this technique. And there you go. Again, that's putting text inside of a shape. Thank you for watching this special Photoshop photography project video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you will get first notice of new project videos in the future. Just click on this link right here where it says subscribe here. You can get all 12 project videos in this series along with 26 special videos demonstrating the tools and techniques that I used in these projects by clicking on this link right down here. And then thank you again for watching this training video.